The worst part wasn't the fines. It was watching my 8-year-old gasp for air while a woman argued about rules like they mattered more than lungs. You ever see your kid turn blue right in front of you? Yeah, that changes something inside you. And if you've never had someone stand between you and your child's survival, trust me, you don't forget the sound your own voice makes when you finally snap. My name's Dalton. 6 months ago, I thought moving into Willowbrook Estates was going to be a reset. Fresh divorce, fresh zip code, fresh start for me and my daughter Skylar. Quiet corner lot outside Phoenix. Enough space for a workshop where I could run my consulting gigs. Disaster response, emergency planning, that kind of thing. I spent 12 years in Army logistics. My whole life was getting the right gear to the right place before people died. After that, suburban chaos feels manageable. Skylar's got severe asthma, though. That part doesn't care about fresh starts. When she stays with me, every room turns into a mini emergency station, inhalers in drawers, oxygen tank humming in the corner, radios tuned to paramedic dispatch. You learn fast when your kid can go from laughing to choking in under a minute. That's about the time Rhonda showed up. HOA president. White SUV. Hair that probably needed its own maintenance schedule. You could smell her perfume before you saw her, like flowers that had opinions. She walked up my gravel driveway one afternoon holding a leather folder like she was about to foreclose my soul. Commercial violation, she says. I thought she was joking. I taught emergency response once a week. My truck stayed in the driveway because disasters don't text before showing up. But Rhonda had rules, and she loved them the way some people love power tools. Loud, aggressive, and always pointed at someone else. First fine was $150. I paid it. You do that when you're a single dad fighting custody battles. You keep your head down. I told Skylar. Some people love rules more than people. Wish I'd never said that. Because Rhonda took that as a challenge. She started showing up every afternoon when I picked Skylar up from school. Parked at the corner with binoculars like she was staking out a drug deal. Measuring tape along my property line. Notes in that stupid folder. The crunch of her heels on gravel became our soundtrack. Skylar would peek through the curtains and whisper, "The mean lady's back." Here's what Rhonda didn't know. My equipment wasn't just tools, it was networks. Military radios tied into emergency channels across 3 states. Old contacts who'd pulled wounded guys out of war zones. You don't spend years coordinating life or death logistics without building a phone book that doesn't mess around. But at first I stayed quiet. Army habit. Document everything. Don't escalate unless you have to. Then she crossed the line. One Saturday morning, I was doing routine generator maintenance. Totally legal noise hours. Grinder humming, Skylar inside, making pancakes, singing off-key to Disney music. Normal life, you know. The kind you don't realize you're about to lose. Rhonda storms up in a pink tracksuit like she's responding to a chemical spill. Says she has a signed complaint from my neighbor about noise. Guy named Garrett, friendly dude, borrowed jumper cables once. Something felt off, though. That signature looked wrong. Too neat. I asked Garrett later. He stared at me like I'd accused him of stealing oxygen. He'd been in Vegas. Rhonda had tricked him into signing some generic petition and reused his name. Forgery. Just like that. And that's when the soldier part of my brain woke up. I started digging into HOA laws, recording everything, pulling camera footage. Turns out Rhonda wasn't just annoying, she was sloppy. Midnight trespassing, photographing my tools through windows, violating her own bylaws. I could feel the ground shifting, like realizing the enemy isn't bigger than you, just louder. Then came the city inspector. She'd filed a formal complaint, tried to paint my workshop as some dangerous industrial lab. The guy shows up, clipboard in hand, and within 10 minutes he's running his fingers along my gear like he's admiring a classic car. Another veteran. He knew exactly what he was looking at. Whoever filed this, he tells me, is either clueless or lying. Neighbors started talking after that. Elena, sweet retired teacher with arthritis and a chihuahua older than some republics, admits Rhonda had been fining everyone. Flowers, parking, nonsense stuff. Marcus, electrician on night shifts, same story. And suddenly it wasn't just me anymore. Elena's the one who blew the doors open. Literally. Dumpster diving. I'm not kidding. She shows up one morning with a grocery bag full of taped-together shredded documents like she's starring in her own spy movie. Inside, financial records. Payments to fake companies. Same last name as Rhonda's brother-in-law. Triple billing. Phantom repairs. Insurance fraud. And buried under all that, letters from a developer. They were trying to devalue the neighborhood, fine people out, scare them off, buy cheap. We weren't victims of petty HOA tyranny. We were obstacles in a real estate heist. You ever feel rage go cold instead of hot, like ice water in your veins? That's what it felt like. We brought in a lawyer friend. She took one look and went real quiet. Said words like federal charges, racketeering, prison time. And that's when Rhonda panicked. Private security showed up. Black SUVs, guards questioning neighbors like we were living in occupied territory. They even started photographing Skylar's school pickup line. That was the moment everything changed for me. You can mess with my house, my money, my sleep. You do not ever drag my kid into it. From there, things moved fast. Federal filings, evidence stacks. Elena turning into a one-woman intelligence agency. Marcus wiring cameras like we were building a bunker. My radios humming day and night. Rhonda, meanwhile, spiraled. Tried to cut my power one night. Cameras caught everything. Clean wire cuts like she'd watched a YouTube tutorial on felony vandalism. Then she tried bribing Elena. Cash in an envelope. Elena recorded it like a proud grandma discovering espionage. By the time Monday rolled around, Rhonda thought she was hosting some big community meeting to expose me as a threat. Flyers everywhere. Called me a domestic terrorist. Said my workshop was some militia hub. I almost laughed. If she hadn't been so dangerous, it would have been funny. Around 9 a.m., my phone buzzes. One text. Federal charges filed. And you know that quiet right before something breaks? That still air before a storm. That's what the neighborhood felt like. By mid-afternoon, black SUVs started rolling in. Not her rent-a-guards. Federal agents. Real ones. Faces like carved stone. I was standing in my workshop when they knocked on her door. Same timestamp that would later haunt me, 3:47 p.m. Funny how life circles moments like that. She opened the door, smiling. Still thought she was in control. That smile died the second she saw the badges. You could see the math happening behind her eyes, the instant realization that power has layers and hers just ran out. They read the charges. Fraud, conspiracy, intimidation. The click of handcuffs carried across the street like a bell. And then this part still feels surreal. You hear rotor blades. My buddy Jake, medical helicopter pilot from my old unit. I'd called him weeks earlier just in case we needed visibility. He circled low over the neighborhood right as kids were getting off school buses. Dust flying, banners scattering Rhonda's propaganda, whipping across the asphalt. Skylar jumped off the bus, eyes wide. Daddy, what's happening? I told her the truth. Sometimes bad people finally get caught. News vans showed up. Cameras. Neighbors pouring out of houses like they'd been holding their breath for months. Elena crying and laughing at the same time. Marcus explaining generators to reporters like he'd been waiting his whole life for that moment. And Rhonda? She tried arguing HOA bylaws to the FBI. I swear, watching that was like seeing someone yell at gravity for working. That night after the helicopters were gone and the lights faded, the neighborhood felt different. Quiet in a new way. Not tense quiet. Safe quiet. 3 months later, things look almost unreal compared to before. Rhonda pled guilty. Federal prison. Restitution money actually fixing things instead of funding scams. Elena got elected HOA president unanimously. First order of business, scrapped half the rules and turned my workshop into an official emergency resource center. Marcus runs the finances now. Cleaner books than most companies I've worked with. And me. My consulting business exploded after the story got out. Turns out a helicopter landing during a federal takedown is memorable marketing. But the best part isn't the money or the recognition. It's the small stuff. Skylar walking to the bus without looking over her shoulder. Kids hanging out in the workshop learning first aid instead of whispering about security guards. Elena handing out cookies while telling the story like she's retelling a war she accidentally won. Sometimes I sit in that workshop late at night. Smell of metal polish and coffee, faint echo of laughter in the walls. And I think about how close we came to losing everything because one person thought rules made her untouchable. Here's the thing I learned, and it took all of this to really get it. Bullies like that don't run on strength. They run on silence, isolation, people thinking they're alone. The moment you document, connect, and refuse to fold, the whole machine starts shaking. Justice doesn't always come fast. Sometimes it limps in. Sometimes it arrives in black SUVs and rotor wash. But when it shows up, man, it's loud. So now I'll ask you something. If someone stood between you and your child, hid behind rules, power, or money, how far would you go to stop them? Would you fight back or walk away and start over somewhere else? I'm curious where you land on that. And if you've ever had a moment where you had to decide, protect the peace or become the storm,